It's time for another episode of Let's Talk Business South Carolina, featuring industry outlooks, panel discussions on trending topics, and interviews with business executives, community leaders, and government officials. And now, coming to you from the Drum Creative Studio, here's your host, longtime South Carolina business publisher, Rick Jenkins.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Let's Talk Business South Carolina. We are up to episode number 33. Got a good one for you today. As always, coming to you from the studios at Drum Creative, and I am your host, Rick Jenkins. We got two guests I'm going to be talking to today. One of them is Kerry Murphy. Kerry is the CEO, president, and she's been at Artisphere for a long time. And that, of course, is the weekend festival that occurs during Mother's Day weekend in Greenville and downtown Greenville. We're also going to be talking to Joe Cash. Joe is the founder and the CEO and the head chef at a great restaurant, not completely new, but somewhat new in Greenville, called Scoundrel. I love the name of that. Today's episode, I want to start off by giving a shout out to our friends at Greenville Technical College. Today's episode is brought to you by those guys. Greenville Tech has been around since 1962, and they have been providing continuing education opportunities for folks just like you for well more than 50 years. Sometimes companies need on-demand training. They need someone to come in and actually train their employees on site, and Greenville Tech has consultants that can actually do that. That training can be in a wide variety of areas. There's been a lot of companies to work with Greenville Tech over the years, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds on this type of thing, but just a few that you know really well. BMW, Bosch Rexroth, Spinks, as a matter of fact, ScanSource. One of the areas where they provide training and development is the culinary arts, which gives me the segue that I'm looking for today, and that is to let you meet a guy named Joe Cash. As I said at the top, Joe is the head chef and the founder of a great restaurant called Scoundrel in downtown Greenville, and he is on a segment that we do from time to time called A Business Executive You Should Know. I talked to Joe not too long ago. He was here in the studio, and I'm going to let you see that conversation now. It's only 4 or 5 minutes long. Go and meet Joe. We'll be right back with Kerry Murphy shortly. Thanks. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another segment of An Executive You Should Know. As always, it's brought to you by Greenville Technical College, and Greenville Tech makes it possible for me to sit down and talk to someone like this guy right here, who is definitely worth you knowing. His name is Joe Cash. He is the owner and the chef at a great new restaurant in downtown Greenville called Scoundrel. Joe, I love the name of that. Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. We are going to talk about how you got your start in a variety of things. And I want to talk about, you started at Greenville Tech and you went through the culinary arts school and you did all kinds of stuff. I want to get that in a minute. But first, you're from the area, right? You're from South Carolina. You're from Greenville.
I'm from Greenville, born and raised.
You're a Greenville boy.
Yeah.
Where'd you go to school?
Went to Eastside High School.
You went to Eastside.
Yeah, and then obviously Greenville Tech for...
Right. Yeah. We'll come back to Greenville Tech. But because you went to their culinary arts school, that means that you had to know from an early age you want to be a chef.
Not really. I think I was always really into food. I enjoyed eating. I was a bit of a husky boy.
Right.
So I always liked that. And then I think that, my family, we dined out a lot. We'd get together a lot. And so I think these convivial moments of being in a restaurant together or, going to your grandmother's house and having these giant meals, was something I always enjoyed. So I think that by the time I actually got into my first restaurant, it began to click.
Right. The social aspect of eating and drinking.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. So you, at some point, pretty quick, went up to New York City.
Yeah.
And you wound up getting a job at a pretty cool restaurant up there. Tell us about it.
I did. So I moved up, didn't have a job.
You just went?
I just went. Basically worked for a week in per se as an apprenticeship that was kind of worked out through a friend of a friend, and figured I would have to leave and find something else and maybe work my way up to coming there one day. But at the end of the week, they offered me a position, and that turned into a nearly 4-year stay.
You got the nerve just to go to New York City. Had you been there before?
No.
You had never been. I've been to New York City several times, and I can imagine how intimidating that would be to roll into town from little old Greenville, South Carolina, right? To roll into town in New York and figure out a way to make your way in that big world. Intimidating?
A little bit, but I think more so exciting.
Exciting, yeah, sure. So you worked into a job at this great restaurant in New York City. You worked there 4 years, and then you went overseas.
Yep.
And you worked at one of the best restaurants in the world, I'm told.
Yes, sir.
And what was that?
Noma in Copenhagen.
Yes.
Yeah.
And what was that experience like? Chef? You were the chef there?
I was a cook there. Yeah.
You were a cook. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
But it was amazing. I think that it was a transformative kind of experience because it changed my palate. Coming from per se, it's very rich, butter heavy, cream sauces, foie gras and everything. And then coming to Noma, it was completely different. And the chefs are looking at how to give you this giant meal, but it's all very light and beautiful and delicate flavors. So it was really eye-opening for me there. And I think it kind of stuck in a lot of the things that we do today.
How did you get that gig?
Well, after I'd been a per se for quite a while, I was, it was either kind of stick around and become a manager, or it was time to go. And to me, that was my first big restaurant, and there was so much more to see.
Right.
So I sat down and spoke with the chef, and he asked me to write a list of a couple of places that I was interested in, and that was obviously one of them. And things just kind of, worked out from there.
And then at some point you decided, you know what, I finished traveling the world. I want to go back home, and I want to open basically a French bistro.
Yeah.
How did you make that decision?
I think a large part was, it had always been in the back of my head, but I think that during COVID, my wife and I got to spend a good bit of time here with my family. And we just kind of fell in love with being down here and the activities that were available in the space and, all those fun things. And so at that point, we were about to get married. We were about to have a son. And so we just made the jump.
Right. Something else that was maybe intimidating and exciting at the same time?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It still is.
Yeah, I understand. When did the Scoundrel open?
We opened in October of 22.
Okay. So I have not been there yet, and I'm so sorry to say that, but I am well aware of it. Tell me, when I do go there, and I will go there soon, tell me what I can eat.
You name it. We have a beautiful bread. We make our own baguettes every day. Beef tartare is a big one. We do that tableside, so there's a bit of fanfare there. Our ducks are great. We dry age them for about 2 weeks. They have this beautiful glassy skin. And then finally, I think a lot of people's favorites are the tomahawk, which is kind of just this big moment at the table. They're about 50, 60 ounces, so they're monsters.
Yeah, surely people can't eat that. They split them.
We've had a few people come in and tackle them.
Yeah, you give them a T-shirt or something.
We're thinking about that. We may pull that out.
Right. How'd you come up with the name Scoundrel?
I think that a lot of it was we wanted to come here and shake things up, so we wanted a name that kind of matched that. And so doing the research and kind of contemplating what concept we wanted to bring, I was looking at a lot of French names, and I think it turned into, I don't want to have something that's challenging for our guests to pronounce or to read or whatever.
Right.
So then as we were kind of just looking through things, we kept seeing the word scoundrel as kind of a secondary definition of some of the words. And from there, it kind of just snowballed into this character and this idea of, this guy who just, maybe he was a little bit out of place, but you knew you could look for him, and you knew he was going to have a good time. So that's kind of what we wanted to bring.
Oh yeah, I absolutely love it. What a great name for a restaurant. I'm going to get you out of here on this. As we mentioned earlier, you went to the Greenville Technical College Culinary Arts School. Yeah. Tell me about your time there.
It was a great time. I still have one of my teachers, Pat Wagner, who I'm in contact with all the time. He's been amazing. He was there from day one and pointing me into, some of the restaurants in Greenville and kind of, showed me what I should be doing. It kind of boosted my career and pushed me on the right track. And still to this day, I think myself and, tons of the guys and girls that went there are constantly in contact with him because he's, this food encyclopedia. So he's amazing. Just the structure of the program was great. It was really a great experience.
Great stuff. Joe, I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
You're more than welcome. Folks, that is Joe Cash. He is the owner and the chef at Scoundrel Restaurant, the best name of a restaurant in Greenville, right? I mean, you can't do better than that. And that is another executive that you should know, again, thanks to Greenville Technical College. Let's get back to Let's Talk Business. See you next time. Welcome back, everyone, to Let's Talk Business South Carolina. And I want to thank Greenville Technical College one more time for making it possible for folks like you all to meet Joe Cash. Joe's a really interesting guy. I enjoyed that conversation. I hope you did too. And if you haven't yet, try to get downtown and stop in at Scoundrel Restaurant. Great place. You know, May is fast approaching, and a couple things happen in May. Actually, 3 things happen in May. One is the Kentucky Derby on the first Saturday of every May. I'm from Kentucky, so I know that. But 2 other things happen in May. One is Artisphere, and 2 is Mother's Day. And it just so happens that both are happening on the same weekend this year. Artisphere has been around for a while, and we're going to talk about that. It's been around 20 years. So you need to get ready to pick up Mom, take her down to Artisphere, and experience things like the visual arts, the performing arts, and my personal favorite, the culinary arts. And here to talk to us about Artisphere and everything you want to know about it is the CEO, Kerry Murphy. And Kerry, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's good to have you here. Now, I haven't seen you in a few years. Last time I saw you, it was not too long after COVID struck, right?
That's right.
And some way, somehow, Artisphere made its way through COVID. You did have to cancel 1 year,
That's right.
if I remember right.
That's right.
But you came back stronger than ever, right?
We did. Actually, I really was proud of the pivot that we made, as so many people did make a pivot. We did execute a virtual experience in 2020. We had hoped to, initially we postponed.
Yeah.
So from May, we postponed to August. And then when that wasn't going to happen, we executed a virtual experience because we didn't want folks to miss the opportunity to see some of their favorite artists. So we did have an online market and things like that, as well as some programming, do-it-yourself crafts for home. But then in 2021, we executed what we refer to as a safe, small, and socially distant Artisphere. It was the first time that the festival was gated, and we had reservations. We sold out. We broke the weekend into, I think it was 8 or 10 different sessions that folks could sign up for. 20,000 people that year, record sales for the artist. We were the first large-scale festival back after the pandemic for Greenville, and one of the first festivals, if not the very first festival, on the art festival circuit for so many of the artists. And it was so much appreciated by not only the artists, but patrons and everybody. It was a beautiful spring weekend in 2021, and everybody was thrilled to finally be back out. Right. And I think they had lifted the mask mandate in South Carolina like 10 days prior to start of the festival. And then 2022, we were back on the street full scale, and last year as well in 2023. So this year, Mother's Day weekend, as you mentioned, May 10th through 12th, will be full scale for the 20th anniversary.
Well, we're going to talk about the 20th anniversary, and I want to talk all kinds of stuff Artisphere. But before we get into too much more of that, I want to talk about you personally for just a sec.
Okay.
If I remember correct, you have been with Artisphere for 16 years, and Artisphere has only been around for 20. I say only, it's a long time, but all I mean is that you came pretty soon after Artisphere started. Now, when you started with Artisphere 16 years ago, were you the CEO at that time?
Executive director, same.
Executive director, became CEO at some point, but you ran the show, and for in the past 16 years, Artisphere has turned into one of the nation's most decorated shows for its type. Again, we're going to get into that in a sec, but talk about you. Are you from here?
Originally from the Washington, D.C. area.
Okay.
I am a Maryland native, but I landed in Greenville after I graduated from Clemson.
That's right. I recall you went to Clemson. So you came down here to go to college, and did you never leave, or did you go back for a few years?
I've lived briefly, no, I never went back to Maryland, but I've lived briefly in other cities outside of Greenville. Maybe a 6-month stint here and an 8-month stint there in Atlanta, New York for a little while, but I've been in Greenville pretty much the majority of the time since I graduated from Clemson.
Greenville has become a destination city. Now, when you moved here originally and when I moved here originally, I wouldn't have defined it at that point as a destination city. But over the course of that time, it certainly has become that. In South Carolina, we're used to a destination city. Charleston, of course, has been a place to go for a couple hundred years or whatever, right? It's been forever. But Greenville, although not completely new to it, it is finding its own way. And there's a whole lot of reasons to come to Greenville. You know, award-winning downtown and wonderful restaurants. If you're a foodie, hang out in Greenville for a while, right? You got the mountains right here. But another reason is for things like that you do. Artisphere and Fall for Greenville and a number of festivals. Greenville's a great place for that. Tell me how Artisphere contributes to the reason you want to come to Greenville, not only economically, but culturally.
Well, I think we've really established our place in Greenville's cultural landscape as a very committed partner that works to elevate the cultural scene here and promote the arts and culture. We're successful at Artisphere because of a number of reasons, patrons that come out and buy artwork, our partnership with the city, our sponsors, our donors. But the artists, were there no artists on the street, there'd be no art festival. And they come, this year we had over 1,000 applications for 140 spaces. Wow. And they come from all over. The applicants came from 40 plus states. The folks out on the street will actually represent 30 plus different states. And they come here because the community comes out and they buy artwork. I mean, artists are going to go to art shows where people are buying artwork. And subsequently, too, as we've gotten the reputation of being such a hospitable area for the arts and artists, so many of the artists that have done Artisphere have moved here full time. So it's the talent pool that we have here to be able to pull together all of our resources to celebrate the arts, the theaters, the visual artists, culinary artists, performing artists, all of those different things. That's, those are the resources that we have that enable us to do it. We've got a beautiful backdrop in the downtown area, right? I mean, talk about an award-winning downtown. I mean, it's just gorgeous. People love the charm of our city. We've got a fantastic partnership with the city of Greenville. I mean, if anybody knows how to do special events in the country, it's Greenville. I mean, they are just very highly regarded for what they're able to do to quarter off the streets, to make people feel safe, to organize it. It's so well run. They really are our operations arm. We couldn't do it without them.
Artisphere, one of the top shows, as I mentioned a minute ago, in the country of its kind, a whole lot of accolades. Tell us a little bit about some of those accolades, some of the awards that you won, some of the great things people have said.
So we are actually currently in the race for the #1 spot in USA Today's 10 Best Reader's Choice contest. Yep. There were 19 other festivals across the country that were nominated, and so patrons are voting and can vote until the 18th of this month, and then the award winners will be announced on the 27th of this month. We're currently in the #1 spot, but other shows there are from Santa Fe. I know there's one from Denver, one from Des Moines, one from Knoxville, Tennessee. These are actually really amazing art shows. I'm familiar with these art shows. I've been to some of these art shows to see what kind of best practices I can steal. So we are up there competing with the #1 spot, with the cream of the crop across the country. The other accolade that we like to hang our hat on is the Art Fair Sourcebook is a resource actually for artists. I liken it to kind of the Consumer Reports for artists, if you will, an almanac for them to reference when searching for what shows they want to apply to. So this is maybe the equivalent of the SAG Awards, if you will, where, actors are voting for their colleagues. Artists are ranking absolutely every facet of the show, from festival organization and marketing, load in, load out, artist amenities, buying savvy, buying energy, all of those sort of things. So the Art Fair Sourcebook ranks the top 600 best-selling art shows across the country, and for 2023, Artisphere landed at #2.
How about that?
So we were thrilled with that. But we're going to land at #1 with USA Today.
Well, I hope so. And now that I think about it, this show will not air until after voting has completed. And you said it will complete on March what?
March 18th, and then the winners will be announced on the 27th.
On the 27th. Okay. So good luck to you. I hope that when this show airs, that congratulations are in order.
Yes, me as well.
I bet you do. I bet you do. Okay, so let's talk about Artisphere a little bit. If someone is going to Artisphere on Mother's Day weekend this year, what are they going to find? 140
the best artists that do art shows across the country. As I mentioned, they are going to come from 30 plus different states, 17 different medium categories. So that's painting, ceramics, jewelry, wood, fiber, glass, furniture, etc. And so, again, the backdrop of the festival is our beautiful downtown. Starts right out in front of City Hall on South Main Street and runs for several blocks across Falls Park Drive and Augusta, the intersection of River, almost to Floorfield. We end at Wardlaw. We have local restaurants participating. That's one of the things that I'm truly proud of. As you mentioned, our food scene has blown up in the last decade or so. And so Artisphere welcomes local restaurants. I do get an opportunity, as I mentioned, I travel across the country to try and see what other art shows are doing. And they will have food vendors, but they're not always the local fare. And of course, you know, we've got a great food scene. So some of Greenville's favorite restaurants will be out there. And then we have, we also do what I love, is some fantastic ancillary programs. We have an exhibit that's specific for artists of the upstate. It's in a gallery type setting that we construct out on the festival site. We have interactive areas for kids. Clemson's STEAM exhibit is always a big hit with kids. Just science, technology, engineering, arts, and math, that intersection, all of those different activities that kids can engage with. And then we have a fantastic Kidsphere sponsored by Spinks. Again, more craft. Those are more of the crafts that you can make and take versus, you know, what you can do in the STEAM tent is more interactive kind of experiences. Great stages, a number of stages this year. We've got a main stage with musical acts from not only local, regional, but national acts. We have a couple of stages. One is a Rising Stars, which is younger youth performers, and then a local performing arts showcase, which features things like our symphony, the South Carolina Children's Theater, Warehouse Theater, the ballet, vocal matrix, etc. And then lastly, we've got a new this year in Falls Park is a performance group called Squonk.
Squonk, spell it.
Squonk.
Squonk, got it.
And the performance is called Brouhaha.
Okay.
They're out of Philadelphia, and if you look them up, they're going to be perfect for Falls Park. Just this larger-than-life style accordion that people can play, and they've got musical instruments, and it's just real great visual effects. So when they're not doing their performance, and there will be 7 of them throughout the weekend, again, engaging like 30-minute performances, the set itself sort of serves as public art, if you will, to be able to engage with while the performers are not acting. You know, you can engage with the larger-than-life, you know, accordion, squonk. Right. Squonkordion, I think is what they call it. They really have some fun. But so those are the 4 stages. Right. And then we've got an art lab, again, which is more adult sort of centric arts activities. University of South Carolina has an Art of Healthy Living exhibit in conjunction with their School of Medicine here, USC in Columbia, the USC School of Medicine here. Oh my gosh, atmospheric entertainment all throughout the festival. That's what they're called now. We call them pop-up street stages. PNC Bank has sponsored those. Atmospheric entertainment, stilt walkers, acrobats, live statues, musicians, dance groups. So it's just a lively weekend. Chalk art, demonstrations, glass and metal. I mean, if it's an artistic medium and we can find it somewhere in close proximity, we're bringing it here.
Well, it sounds like it's incredibly family-friendly and kid-friendly, of course. You know, I have coordinated large events in my time, really big events, but nothing that approaches this kind of thing. But doing the large events that I have done, I know how much coordination it takes. I know how much planning it takes. I know how much help that must be needed to pull something like this off. How many volunteers do you have?
We have about 600 volunteers over the course of the weekend. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And how big's your staff?
Myself and 3 other gals, yeah.
Okay.
We've got a communication strategist, visual arts programs manager, and a development coordinator. But it's funny, you talk about how long I've been with Artisphere. In the early years, it was just myself and one other gal, a programs manager. And we really, it forced us to do a lot of things. You know, I do have a business degree, actually, from Clemson. I don't have an art degree. And so our nonprofit has always been run very much like a business. And so we've been able to be very fiscally responsible, and which has really afforded us, again, the support in droves from our presenting sponsor, TD Bank, and the city, and grants, and other sponsors and patrons have really enabled us to grow not only our staff capacity, but the growth of the festival footprint, the growth of the number of programs that we've been able to do, where we've been able to market. We have a very robust out-of-market campaign that contributes to that influx of visitors during the weekend. So we've been very, very blessed that Greenville has embraced Artisphere the way it has. And because, we don't have a gate fee, right? Artisphere is a free event. So those tens of thousands of people that come out, they don't have to pay anything. It is completely underwritten by all of our sponsors and very generous foundations and patrons.
How many people are you expecting?
Last year we had roughly 90,000. We've been hovering about there. It's hard to tell, frankly, because the weather is going to dictate a lot of that. In addition to Mother's Day, it's Clemson's graduation, so there's a lot of folks in town for that, and a lot of folks out on the street just for that, and run into an art festival not even knowing what luck they're going to have out on the streets. But somewhere around 90,000 is usually where we've landed the past few years.
I'm just wondering, of course, the fall festival that brings in a ton of people to Greenville is Fall for Greenville. Any idea how many people attend that?
They're over 100,000, and they are actually in the running for Best Food Festival with USA Today. They're the 10 best Reader's Choice right now, so people need to vote for that too.
But yeah, for sure. But you guys, in terms of attendees, extremely close to that. And I got to be honest, I wouldn't have guessed quite that many. So fantastic. How do you know how many people come, by the way?
It's become a lot more scientific, not just a lot more scientific than it was when I first started. You can now capture drone photographs, right?
Right.
So you get the total square footage of your festival, and you take some photographs. And there are folks that work in the event world that actually have studied how much room does a person need when they're standing and watching a parade versus how much room does a person need when they're walking in a festival? What's the average amount of time people spend at a festival? So you throw all of those numbers together and come up with our estimated attendance.
Right.
So as much science as we can put behind it, it is still our best guess and best estimation.
Yeah, I can understand that. All right, so tell me what you got specific planned this year for your 20th anniversary that might not have occurred last year or the year before.
So every 5 years, we dedicate a piece of public art. While it is our mission to create a nationally ranked fine arts festival that enhances quality of life and economic vitality in South Carolina, it's also an unspoken part of our mission that we want to contribute to Greenville's public art landscape and really be part of the fabric of Greenville's cultural community year-round. Right. So this year being the 20th, we do have a new installation that we are doing this year that will be dedicated. Perhaps while it's being installed, people might be able to see the piece before it is actually dedicated. So we're not calling it an unveiling, as it might not entirely be a surprise. But we are dedicating it to the city on opening day of the festival on Friday, May 10th. And it will be in the Central Business District on Main Street in downtown Greenville. And it'll be a piece that people will want to interact with, will be able to interact with. It will be a great photo op. And that's all I'm going to say.
That's all you're going to say. Well, Kerry, thanks so much. Fantastic stuff.
Thank you.
All right, folks. May the 12th?
May 10th.
10th, 11th, and the 12th. Grab Mom. Head downtown to Artisphere. Enjoy yourself. You'll be one of only 90,000 or so. It's big fun. I'll see you there. Folks, that's Kerry Murphy. She is the CEO at Artisphere and been doing a bang-up job for 16 years. Thanks to Joe Cash for joining us on this episode, and we will see you next time.